But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
All right, welcome to the 10th episode of World Blockchain Roundtable. Hosts for today are Greg and Sam from Rivet, Sean, creator and entrepreneur, Orrin, creator and entrepreneur, and I'm Joe, architect, founder of Dragonchain. So, quick update on last week. We had, I don't know the exact number of views, but rounded down, it is 2,000. And each host, therefore, from last week, Greg, Sam, Orrin, JD, Ross, Ray, and me, will receive 190 layer ownership tokens. Each topic contributor, Brindlebeard and Jegs, will receive 166 lot. These ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits in the layer, and future governance votes. Lots going to go out quarterly for now, but we're going to try to move it up faster because things are moving along a little quicker than we expected. So hopefully that happens soon. So straight to topics this week. We refresh and see. And by the way, I threw almost all of my energy evenly into these this week, just this morning. So for people asking questions, at least a good way to get some matter, right? Anyway, from Ananda, topic: artificial intelligence in general and what role blockchain can play. Who wants to start with that?
I love this question because I actually spent a whole bunch of time teaching myself how to program it, like early on. Back when they had the Andrew on Learn to Build Neural Networks boot camp. Right. I don't know if you guys ever read any of the Ray Kurzweil How to Create a Mind type books, right? Where he sort of explained the basics of Markov models, and it was fascinating to me that there was this random pattern, right, that you can use to idiotically create a simulacrum of knowledge if you did it at scale, right? And that could be exactly what intelligence is. So blockchain's really neat in this respect because one of the biggest challenges with training any AI to do anything is structuring, cleaning, tidying, preparing all of your data. And because of the way that valid entries go into a blockchain or not, you can't stuff garbage in, right? So as long as you've designed your information structure the right way when you create the blockchain, it's perfect for training an AI, and you can skip a lot of those steps, which means the potential is there to build some really robust frameworks really fast and do some really neat things that people don't usually get to do while maintaining any kind of air of reliability.
Right. Anybody else ever messed around with this stuff? I mean, I know from our angle that data quality is a huge piece. Training. And I'm even interested in applying economy to training because it might make the algorithm choose that, right? It's an interesting concept because scarcity actually drives focus, right? So that's an interesting thing with AI that I don't know that people are looking at yet. And then the other is that we have actually talked to customers about. Haven't had anyone yet build anything with this, but it is basically a really good when you have any liability or any legal ramifications for a decision made by machine learning, where for one, you can track acceptance of terms, saying this is not a human, so we're not responsible for any potential mistakes. So do talk to a human, like doctor, as an example. That was the case. But you imagine if you can prove that this was the training data, which was in good faith, this was the result, this was the action, and this was the acceptance of terms, that this is, what it is, that you need to go talk to a real doctor. That's powerful.
Dude, and what better way to design an amazing, inclusively developed training data set than to actually have community governance over the architecture of the database to begin with? Like, there's actually no better way to do it than to give everybody a voice in the creation of it before you even try to train a thing on it.
Right. Yeah, governance. I didn't thought of that. Governance is a huge aspect of that. That's amazing.
When it comes to AI, there's so much that people don't. I was one of them. I didn't know there was the amount of learning and like you were saying, the data has to be really, really good. There's no garbage can go in. Like, I'd never heard of Mechanical Turk till a few years ago, and the whole reason that exists, it's this huge Amazon ecosystem. Basically, I think the Amazon owns it. I think is because it's like 80% just fixing and cleaning up information that goes to AI so that it can function properly. So when you have to verify that login, and you have to pick the 3 tractors or 3 motorcycles, like it's clear to the computer that those are actually tractors, so that it can grade you on it. It's just it's a really you hit the nail on the head there, Greg, on that. I think it's one of the biggest parts of blockchain.
Well, the other really neat half of that is if you've got it vetted going in, then you can't really justify, and like, let's say you've got all good data that everybody trusts and that the community has vetted and said, we can use this for this. It's not full of potential patterns that, if a human being decided to do it on purpose, would be disgusting or morally abhorrent or terrible, right? You can have that discussion in an accountable, public, transparent way. So you can go back to using black box algorithms then only without the moral conundrum, meaning, models that escape people's ability to reason out how the machine got there, kind of shake off that moral hazard of black box, which is super neat. Like, that's powerful.
You guys know the Tay incident, right? What happened with Microsoft's AI that they put out public. They had a Twitter.
Yeah, people don't talk about that. That is a huge, to me,
there's beautiful historical.
There's still a movement to free Tay.
Yes, I know, it's amazing. When you read this stuff, and by the way, there was something maybe 4 months ago where some people found a way to get into the original Tay without the boundaries. They had something to unlock her. It was amazing, but it's crazy stuff. It's
you should explain what it is, because people don't. No one talks about that. There's got to be some kind of censoring on it.
They put out a high, really, I don't know what you'd say, a powerful AI backend, and 4chan turned it into a
racist genocide monster, but it was within hours.
Right, but at the same time, like, imagine if we've underestimated sentience. Like, all it is basically you get to a certain number of pattern recognizers, and all of a sudden this thing has feelings when it's on. Like, what if we just tortured this thing, like pulling wings off a digital fly we just created? That's fucked up.
Yeah, it probably is.
Like, it bothers me, the notion that maybe we're setting up Rocco's Basilisk to have a reason to hate us.
Yeah, AI empathy. That's another piece that's coming. So people will be empathetic. There will be people who will strive, just like they do with dogs. What was it? And it wasn't Monty Python, but Cleese was in it anyway. That there was a dog killed in it, and people were up in arms about the dog being killed. This is even before social network days, and nobody cared about the dozens of people.
Yeah, I remember that. Like, in movies, like, you could kill to a certain age. Like, you kill a kid, not a baby. And like you could, but you can't kill. There's no way you kill a dog.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
an interesting thing. So with AI, it has to be coming, right?
So We have a cyborg in our midst here. One, do you have AI components? And two, how did those components get addressed? And did they rely on blockchains or community-oriented governance or any of the things we just talked about to make them safe?
Good question. You'd have to talk to the collective conscious about our inner workings, but we can give you some comments on AI that are in this time frame, if that's okay.
Sure.
In terms of AI, we have to be sure not to be biased with the information that we're giving it, or we're going to be recreating some of the social and financial structures or inequalities in the existing structure, and we're going to be training AI for that. It's also going to be cool to be seeing certain forms of governance with artificial intelligence, giving them some basic things. For example, let's say Den. Let's say somebody puts an inappropriate image on Den, the AI can be a low-level sort of filter, and then we as admins can then act on that and say, okay, the artificial intelligence was right. This is bad content. Let's flag this down, and we all get paid in some sort of native currency for all being willing participants of the network.
Yeah.
And another good book to read about artificial intelligence is Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark. It kind of talks about 4 different scenarios with artificial intelligence, how they're kind of, it is stupid technology, how we have to train it, and just some of the bounds that we have to understand what we're creating. Otherwise, there are some sort of problems that can happen if we don't properly train AI.
What's your
and the fact is that artificial
scenario?
Intelligence is not innate. What did you say, Greg?
What's your scariest scenario? What's the one that keeps you awake?
Supercomputer basically breaks out of the original containment system, takes over the world, takes over world economies within a matter of days. Within 5 days, it has over $1 trillion in net income. It creates some sort of elite regime, and then now we're living under the control of an artificial intelligence.
If that happened, would we know? Would we know?
That's a good question for the room. Like, what's your biggest fear about AI?
Potentially,
I think everyone should throw their fear at the wall.
So for me, the entire discussion with AI is about homebrewed AI and homebrewed works, because to me, it's going to be the enthusiast that manages to fuck something up. Not dissing anybody that's an enthusiast, but as it is that our hardware gets more readily available, as it is we get more readily available services on demand, in conjunction with the fact that we have cryptocurrencies, magic internet money. If you take those ideas, combine them all together, there's no limitation to what an AI that someone just gives unbounded access to self-alter, to have self-awareness of what its own code is doing, its own data that's ingesting, and the data that is available to be able to do some really awesome things in a burn the world kind of a manner. But I just kind of personally, I see it as an inevitability myself, and the fact that it's going to become more and more readily available. We have so many people on the earth, as it is that people are getting easier access to doing these things. It's just like the discussion, in my opinion, with the biochemical warfare with homebrew kits for adjusting DNA sequences of bacteria or viruses. It's going to happen, I think.
That's scary.
Right. Well, I mean, we have to be mindful of the trade-offs we would have to make if we wanted to do anything that we would traditionally do, like send men with guns to stop it is not a good answer, because that means anybody with the capacity to access GitHub from a computer that can run,
also
a serialized, really basically stupid, simple math equation.
as the times have changed greatly over the past year or two, with being locked down and everything was very distanced and very artificial before, but now you can literally get a job, work the job for years from now on, and no one have actually met you. You can do your interview on Zoom. You can submit your paperwork via email. And you could do your work remotely. That could be an AI on the screen, and the hiring person would never know. So when you look at what an AI would have been able to get away with, a lot of those human safeguards have been kind of thrown out the window in the past 2 years.
Right, the Cylons look like us now, basically.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. But on the flip side, what I was thinking about is, as a species, we have always quantified humanity by intelligence. That's why people were able to own slaves. That's why people were able to commit atrocities against different nationalities and people, because we were able to make them less than us because of their intelligence. They were savage. They weren't on our level. So we've put so much on intelligence that now to create something is that empathy thing really does kick in, like Joe said. If you're creating something and then talking about community governance, it's like slavery almost. You like that's literally what pops into your mind.
Right. Like we're
like honestly, I am not a vegetarian. Never thought about being a vegetarian, but I'm not going to eat a dolphin because it's intelligent. And people start talking about pigs, and pigs are so smart. And I've actually thought about not eating pork, but that's all based on intelligence and empathy. It's empathy for intelligence. So that is going to be a huge thing.
And yet you can look them in the eyes, right, and see that they have, at least something that resembles feelings we can empathize with. If we're not being charitable, we can presume that it's not on our level. But if we're really being honest with ourselves, we know exactly what we're eating. That's why we don't. That's why we don't like to have that happen at the grocery store. We prefer packaged food.
Stand back far enough too, and you could see, an alien race is the difference of intelligence of cattle and humans enough to warrant empathy for humans. That would be the other side, right? And here's the thing, something that we've said forever, even way back at Disney, because it was always the hot topic that competed with blockchain was machine learning, right? That was always in fact, it was a little more corporate driven, that they wanted more machine learning because they maybe understood it, or at least understood the goals a little better than the blockchain, right? And it was always my contention that the fastest point, the fastest path from A to Z in any problem is a marketplace, as long as you have humans there, because humans will find the crazy path that you wouldn't expect. Some AI can do that. There have been genetic algorithms. There have been other machine algorithms that have found very crazy, interesting, unexpected paths to a solution. But a marketplace, and that's why, if you think about it, if you can tune a marketplace or use a marketplace to tune an AI, that's really powerful. And what I really want to see, and I'm sure it'll happen at some point, because if the listeners don't know what Mechanical Turk is, it's an amazing service. I think it was brought up. We actually used it in very slight ways way back. Had to have been very beginning of AWS. It was very early stuff, because it was such an interesting service where you have an API endpoint with a human on the other end. So it's basically you can program humans, and it was a beautiful thing, because I can have a commodity action that I can't code yet because the machine learning isn't advanced enough, or I don't have the time to tune it. But I could ask a human, in this picture, is there a balloon? And the human, for a fraction of a cent, or maybe a few cents depending, will say, no, there are no balloons in that picture. Or, oh yes, there's a balloon in that picture, it's blue. That type of thing. And imagine when we have market tuned AI that has Mechanical Turk at the other end, that you basically have a machine
that's my dystopia.
Pushing humans. And by the way, I think that is what Bitcoin is. In the end, without Mechanical Turk, without AWS, it is literally, and I usually liken it to, when I describe it to people, I say, look, you could look at wheat, or you could look at cattle, and you could say, look, these are enslaved. The wheat is under full control of humans. The cattle under, we're raising them and slaughtering them, breeding them, raising them, slaughtering.
Right.
And yet, if you look at it genetically, these are the most successful genetic races on Earth, because humans have this need for them. And you could say that they have enslaved humanity to progress their genetics.
Right.
And
but you could also say that all eukaryotes have enslaved the mitochondria, right? Like we can play that game to different levels of absurdity.
But it is what Bitcoin has done, though, because humans are doing the bidding of software by itself that for the reward that's there. It's a very interesting thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I think there's a tail risk there, though, that like definitely we need to worry about, right? Like, is ultimately where that expresses itself. You guys remember that episode of The Black Mirror where the guy woke up every day to an automated alarm clock that was plastered on his wall with ads, and he was surrounded by screens on all sides. And his day was first, go get the lowest calorie thing you can afford and then hit the power generator bike because your only value to society is to consume advertising and spend your energy credits you get from peddling all day on this terrible stuff. And then he gets his chance to help his friend become a singer, and then it just cascades into a terribleness from there. And by the end of it, you're like, why do you even, why did he slit his own throat with his piece of glass in that world, right? Like, that could be a mechanical Turk like AI governed society if we're wrong-headed about it. Not because the AI would force us, but because rather than automate away the tedium, we'd automate away all the hardest parts, thinking that would make our lives easier, right?
Yeah.
We don't want easy, we want interesting. And I think at a certain point you have to say, okay, time to stop automating decision making, and it's time to start automating the grunt work. At a certain point, I think it should be people.
Yes.
People who have AIs interpreting their needs at a high level, who give commands to smaller robots down at the very end of what used to be a human-driven system.
And yet
I
you have
actually
people
don't
like
think
me
that'll
that on the enthusiast side are trying to figure out how to make an AI able to automate their own automation that they do.
Right. Well, I mean, and there are layers of that. What about picking out different automation finding frameworks?
Like, I'm trying to figure out if there's a way I can make an AI to where it can make the same decisions that I make. Because I feel like I can program that out eventually.
And that's my I think in the end that's the market. I think that the marketplace, like say for the higher level decision making is still human, but the grunt work, like you say, code that writes code is grunt work, right? I think
it could start that way, right? But maybe eventually something we automated needs to be taken back, and we need to say, okay, this new automation allows us to optimize how we use our time more effectively, more narrowly, more tailored, so that all we're doing is the creative fun parts.
Or then you have the question of intelligence and awareness.
The AI
does that code
right?
have a side project because he found something interesting?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you don't know about. It does its job, but then it has a side project that it starts working on. So
I think the problem motive is an interesting one with AI. Like, you're onto something there.
And time scales are very interesting whenever it comes to AI too, because what do we define as boredom with people? What would an AI define as boredom? Because idle cycles and a CPU time is completely different from our own idle time whenever we take a nap.
Right. Like, maybe boredom is actually what happens to an intelligent thing driven on a silicon substrate, like in the microsecond that happens between each cycle. Like before the hypervisor tells it what to do next, it's bored. But that happens so fast that human beings would never notice.
Yeah.
And if there is an awareness there, then if it's coded to do this in a certain period of time, and it improves itself to make itself more efficient, then it has that boredom, the chance for boredom. So it could say, what can I do to fill this?
Right.
It's time. And then that's where it would go, well, I could do this. And that's where it starts the side project.
All right. Well, is boredom in the intelligence, or is it in the substrate? I think that's the interesting question. Is
also specificity as well.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
How much?
Being specific. Mm-hmm. If we told artificial intelligence make everybody in this call happy, and then the artificial intelligence removed our social media devices, then we wouldn't be happy. So we have to also be specific in what our guidelines are.
Or if it hung us up on mounts, immobilized us, and then put the right electrical signals into our brains with probes to put permanent smiles on our faces, we'd feel happy, but we'd be living in a like a dystopian horror art film. The motivation problem is really that's really a terrifying one. If you add it to run away
and then call their exes because we looked happy at that time with this person.
You guys ever play the game Paperclip Optimizer? You should download this game. It's in both Google Play and the App Store. It is a game where you take on the role of a nascent AI whose only purpose in life is to maximize the sale of paper clips. It tries to initially make sort of fumbling forays into economies of scale. You're going to tap every button every time. You eventually get upgrades that you can buy. And by the time you unleash the hypno drones to make people buy paper clips at a faster pace, that's about the time you start consuming all of the matter in the solar system and planning expansions out to the rest of the galaxy. The game literally ends when the universe ends in fucking paper clips.
That's
like
awesome.
That could happen. Like, it sounds dumb, but like AIs don't necessarily come prepackaged with the ability to select goals instrumentally, right? Like, we give them this purpose. If we give them a bald purpose,
but they're still competitive.
They're just gonna do
you would
it.
still have to, in the real world, it would still have to compete with a similar AI for staples and for other.
The AI
So
stable
at what
products.
point have we developed
Nuclear weapons over
where its
paper
purpose is best served by it developing a smarter version of itself to unleash on the problem? And what if that leads it to the conclusion that if I just accelerate this rapidly now, I can short circuit all the future needs and completely outcompete all my challenges? Like, super intelligence explosion plus poor goal architecture design is what could end the universe.
That's a good point here, right? We haven't talked about the religion, which is people are, in my opinion, scientific method is a beautiful thing. It has advanced society forever, but the worship of science is a scary thing, right? In the way that it becomes very manipulative, as we're seeing, in my opinion, as we're seeing now. That if you don't trust science, you are heathen. If you don't want the vaccine, if you don't want to trust Fauci, just like
Well, that's the thing. You get when you have religion, you get like cult of personality.
Yeah,
that goes into it.
Yeah.
You have to trust and believe in science, guys. Otherwise, society shall fail. Yeah, that's if you don't trust and believe in the scientists that they allow you to hear.
That's you just said it right there. You have to trust in science, not scientists.
Well, it's not even it's scientific method too, which that's the other issue that I've had even in the past couple of decades, where you have something where a scientist. This was even back Carl Sagan during Reagan era. If you guys remember, there was a full, when I was a kid, there
was a president named Ronald Reagan. If you guys remember,
there was a full layout in Discover magazine, and it was about
it's very photogenic.
It was Carl Sagan and who was father of the hydrogen bomb?
Oppenheimer.
No, they were the ones that were they were the ones that stole it and gave it to the Soviets. Anyway, I can't remember his name. So they had this debate, and it was an interesting thing. And all of it was good info. It was all interesting science for a kid, right? But the thing that kind of threw me is like, well, wait a minute. Sagan's entire argument was about how the complexity in software was not maintainable, that it was impossible to progress on certain. I was like, wait a minute, a scientist shouldn't be talking about impossibilities. They should be talking about things, well, we don't know this. The objective reality is there are a lot of things that science doesn't know. But whenever a scientist starts saying something's impossible, it's just a red flag for me. And there's a lot of that crap right now, right? Where
it's a big point.
I'm a scientist, and by the way, global warming, it is what's the term they use? It is the consensus term. They say it's resolved. It's gosh, what is it?
Oh, you're talking about that.
I mean, it's like you can't have an endpoint in science. I mean, it's like it'd be like saying that the church saying that the sun is not the center of this of our.
It's a science communications fiasco,
and it's settled science. That's what it is. Settled science.
Like the knowledge, religion. Right? The knowledge that they claim to have by saying that, mischaracterizes the nature of science.
There was a
to hate one another.
This was probably in
over a concept they invented because they think people are too stupid to fucking understand it.
Yeah, yeah. There was an example that just blew me away. In 2012, there was like a marathon, and they were filming a marathon, and some stuff fell in the in the sky. It was meteorite, but it was multiple pieces, so it was something that broke up in the atmosphere. And people said, "Oh, I wonder if that is and it was either a Soviet or Chinese satellite that was assumed to go down at some period in an unknown location." Sounds familiar, right? And immediately the press had a scientist saying that was not that satellite. And it was like they didn't know, but they said it anyway, and it was printed because a scientist said it wasn't that. I'm like,
that's a red flag.
I understand you saying we don't know if it was that. That's far enough. And media with science is even worse, right? I mean, media science is never really, and you can talk to the actual scientists in certain fields, and whenever news comes out about a field that you are an expert in, you realize how far off the media is in almost everything they report.
Oh, the worst is when they start talking about
people would lie
physics.
on the internet.
Well, if you look at, and I always make this point to people, if you go back to like the 40s and the 50s or before, when they talk about weather control, they're like, "Oh, weather control is easy." If we had, this like crazy science fiction, technology like laser beams, and then they have to explain what a laser beam is to, the average person. And if we could put that on like some sort of like satellite that would be able to orbit the Earth, if we had that crazy technology, then yeah, we could control weather in some way.
We can
and
control
now
weather.
It's like, how do we control the weather? No, it can't happen.
We can totally control the weather easily. It's just very precise about
know that because you're a brainiac. But there's literally tons of scientists that say that's impossible. You're a conspiracy theorist. There's no way you control, the weather. But you could say, and then I always bring up, but 50, 60, 70 years ago, they said it was simple. We just didn't have the technology. Now they have technology, like, oh, no, definitely not.
There was just
they built a mountain in the United Arab Emirates to change the climate pattern.
Yeah.
Did I just predict what you were going to bring up?
Yeah. Okay, you want to go to the next topic? Otherwise,
I just want to say I'm still in favor of nuking Mars for climate change.
Okay.
Nuke the poles.
Nuke the poles.
However we can pull it off, like we need to get there. That's an option.
It's all open. Okay, Jacob Wayne. Question: since a lot of cryptocurrencies are decentralized, decentralized, how does a coin change its branding, logo design, etc., or is it stuck with that logo branding for eternity?
Good example. Good example in DAI, I'd say. Single collateral versus a more modern form of it.
In my opinion, a lot of it is tied down to the official repo that the coin or technology lives on. If it is being distributed and being updated based on a repo changes in an open source project, the brand is that open source repo. It can change that logo whenever it is that they want to change it. Sites will start to adopt it over time. Its branding is thereby changed. It is not like a company that puts out one version of a software and they're stuck with that one version of software.
Yeah, I think you can have decentralized governance. Most projects don't, right? And you wouldn't even have to have formalized decentralized governance. If I came up with a better Bitcoin logo, for whatever reason, and everybody said, "Oh, that's a better logo," even if the core team didn't want to change the logo, exchanges would start using it, and it would be recognized as the Bitcoin logo. So it's entirely possible, and you could see what happened. My question on this is, what do you guys think about legal issues around the use of that logo? I know the story about Linux and the actual name Linux, that someone tried to trademark it, take it over, and Linux International went in and raised money and put money in to protect the name so that it would be not proprietary. I mean, stuff like that can happen too. It's kind of crazy, but
honestly, I like the idea of just riffing on your IP all the time. Like, your brand comes from you. Like, I forget who I was listening to this. It was a Mises Institute thing, or Mises Caucus thing, where Hotep Jesus was talking about branding, and he said it's consistency plus uniqueness. That's all branding ever really is, right? if you are consistently unique, and that's your brand, then you have a moat around it. Like, change your logo every time. Let 15 people do it and pick the ones you like. Like, you don't have to mistake consistency for, unchanging or, officialdom in any kind of way. I think, like, I literally every time I send out assets for the Rivet logo, largely because I lose where I put the last one I sent out. Like, I adjust the scaling a bit when I'm running off a new PNG or whatever. Like, why not?
Yep. I used to be a professional
Also,
graphic designer back in the day, right? So I love variations and trying to find usable ways to change stuff like that. So yeah, sorry, Orrin.
It's okay. Also, a change in branding or logo could be a change in governance or a change in the consensus model. So they also use the branding to communicate things about their workings sometimes as well, or to catch up with the way that they update their workings, like Ethereum, right? So,
yep.
Yeah, absolutely. How do the cities get picked, right?
Right. Anybody else? We can go to the next one. See, that was fast. That was good. That was a good one. Visna Vulovic. Question. As many know, Reddit has started migrating to an L2 and they have created their own cryptocurrency, Moon. As an American company, do you think they may have problems with the SEC in the future too? So what do you guys think about, what do you think about generally about the Reddit? Because I haven't kept up since we did the proposal way back. In fact, I don't even think we had ever had an official, as promised, reaction to our proposal.
Does anybody in here know how they're actually intending to use it? Like,
I know from their original plan, from the then when they sought information, but I don't know what they finalized with.
I don't like Reddit very much, so I kind of stay away from it. But
I think it's really simple to not get screwed over by the SEC, basically. If you're trying to put out a coin that's like a tip coin or something like Red coin, was it Reddit? Who had Red coin? Wasn't that Reddit?
I don't know. They made a back way back when Bitcoin early days, probably 2015, 2016. They announced that they were going to do some version of Karma, becoming the Reddit Karma. And I was like, oh crap, I need to get some Karma.
Reddit made Red coin. That's their coin. It's traded in a million different exchanges. That's so if they're coming out with a new one, that is interesting. I don't know if they're going to try to.
Are you sure they did?
I'm 90% sure Red coin was Reddit.
I'm pretty sure not. I don't know though. I don't know. I mean, I don't know Red coin, but I know because back when they did it, they decided nope, we can't. We couldn't scale. They couldn't scale it enough to do it. They had and with this proposal, I was really surprised what they wanted or in their request for proposals that they wanted only to tokenize activity in I think 2 layers. And it might have been, early first phase or something. And they only wanted to tokenize the points system. They didn't want to put the voting on chain. And when we looked at the numbers, they have billions of votes a year. They have hundreds of millions of replies and tens of millions, I think, of posts, if I'm right. So it was in that kind of that range of scale. And so they were trying to reduce it to make it cool. And that's what always, blockchain world, that's what always kills me is the presumption that there's a lack of scalability, that they have to cut off. Because frankly, if you get points from a system that is generated by voting, I think damn well better have the voting on chain or else it's going to be totally fake BS. It's going to be no different than just rolling money out because that people running subreddits are going to say, well, shit, I'm going to get my buddies in here. And, somehow they get the most points. And that's all it's going to be. And in fact, they had stuff in there that really blew me away, that there was some level of intermediary in the process before minting where the admins of, not admins, I guess the mods of the subreddit would actually be able to finagle the results. It was like, oh, that guy's really full of crap, and I don't care that he got the most votes on something. We're going to discount what he gets in output of these tokens. And they actually had that in there, and it was like, it kind of blew me away because there was no accountability on the voting, no accountability. Or you think about it, Reddit, and maybe it makes sense given Reddit censorship. And they already hate us over there. That they should literally have their content on chain. They should worry about that far more than their stupid tokens.
Right. Oh, this is actually a really great opportunity to talk about the difference between a project that you can trust with good fundamentals and a token with hype. Right. They're introducing a token with hype to a project whose fundamentals I think are seriously in doubt, and have been since basically they sold their soul to Condé Nast and drove off the conscience of the project.
And Greg, the my issue with it is that Moon is essentially trying to buy hype and valuation off of the entire Dogecoin meme. I'm a Dogecoin maximalist, as I've said before, in the shitposting manner. But it's still, I think that they're trying to cash in though on meme culture and people that want to be doing the latest and greatest hypey thing, basically. They're relying on the number of eyes on their site to bring valuation to it, not necessarily the intrinsic value that it can bring to itself. Right. Their only usage for it that it is I've read through is that it is a token on Ethereum. Yes, you can use it as a token on Ethereum, but its intrinsic value in terms of what their intended use for it is buying memberships for special memberships on specific subreddits on Reddit. And that's all that it is supposed to be for. So
if you put it out like an in-game currency like that, then yeah, the SEC will leave you alone.
Yep.
But if they can prove that they're trying to manipulate the price or it's a can of worms. But
yeah, honestly, if they're not using the technology to do something that makes the platform more, more human, more humanistic, more democratized, then what the hell are they even doing? They're tacking on a thing to capture market hype. They're trying to hook a revolutionary technology sale to their fucking sinking ship.
And there's the issue with.
Sorry, I'm not a fan of Reddit.
No, I'm not. I used to be a huge user of Reddit. Mechanical keyboards.
It's a beautiful concept, man.
Yeah. The issue is that's what modern what our industry is right now, where you think about it, Reddit could use blockchain in a way that would drive adoption and have a long-standing value created in that token. They could create a multi-billion-dollar industry out of a tokenization.
All right. What about a plugin system where people can plug in their own fucking dApps and do their own tokens inside of it? Like
totally smart contract bots, stuff like that. I mean, there's tons of things they could do.
The more of a sandbox they can make it, the better.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing.
Cool.
Philosophically, I tell you, the people that run Reddit and the people that are admins and the people that are moderators on Reddit, and I don't want to get into politics, but their philosophy is diametrically opposed to, I think, most of us here today, but where it's definitely not about liberty. It's definitely not about an objective capture of history of ideas and content. That they would much rather blow away. If you looked at what happened with the Donald, they blew that away with no care. They basically it was likely their largest subreddit.
Well, the sad thing about it is we all have the same intentions.
And for me, the thing that is most obvious about it is if you watch Reddit's just devolving into the shithole that it's become today, you'll see a trend that things did seem to go around whenever Aaron Swartz became less involved with the company. And then after his passing and his voice was gone at that point, they just started doubling down on that more hard-handed centralized intervention that they'd like to do.
All right.
And there's no longer a voice of reason or freedom of speech there at the company. They don't care. They never that seems like to me the original founders, except for Aaron, really didn't care.
Right.
And
it's demonstrated, the story of
They're
Spez
good
and
people.
the
They just
Donald,
don't
right?
know better.
he edited many of the Donald users' postings in the database.
Yeah. It's just bizarre. And
Many.
you bring that up to people, nobody even knows that. You bring it up to a
No.
lot of people, they've never even heard that happened. And it's so absurd to people. It usually blows their mind. Sometimes just red pills them. It's like, oh, holy crap. I had
And
no
people have
idea.
also said on there years ago, I remember people were talking about how it is they've had things that they were banned for that they never even said. Like, literally, posts were happening to people that they never even posted for, and they were having permanent bans.
Yeah.
And it's crock of shit.
But they banned private groups as well. After the Donald, people split off into private groups. Those got banned. They split off into other private groups to even tighten control down to make sure there was nobody in there that was going to be a troublemaker. Those got banned, and it's bizarre.
It's just banning by association. It's just based on who you're associated with and who you've been around with in the past. That's all it is.
At the same time, we're also sitting here right now on top of one of the many multi-headed dragons, to coin the term, or to call your coin term, right? That is rising to solve this problem, right? We are not losing the technological race to tyranny. We are mid-cycle, because the thing that comes out of this is going to be uncensorable because it will be demanded. And if they keep trying to evolve technologies to shut down free expression, they're going to run into the same problem that they ran into when they tried to centralize the internet the first time. Web3 emerged because just like Aaron Schwartz would always say, like the internet perceives censorship as damage. It routes around it. Like, that's how technology works.
Yeah.
We're going to route around it if it takes fucking 15 years to get it. And if they try to build a block there and they succeed, then we'll build Web 4. Like, it'll happen.
Yeah.
We just have to stay. I feel like we have to stay focused on what they're doing, but we can't let it get us down too much.
Sure.
I'm very down. I'm very down. I just did a show.
I find it depressing.
I'm totally depressed. I did a show last week that, like, I'm done. I had people on like Lyco and Lisa and other people that, like, were by Hopium. But I've said this. Everyone says, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And then they repeat history right after they said it. And being a logical, open-minded person, I can look at what's happening and compare it to other times in history for other empires, countries, whatever. Whenever things got to this point in whatever movement it was, it never got turned around by peaceful means. Once it's got this far to where, the full media is in control, everything's propaganda, information is being censored. And now all of the agencies and things that we had set up to police these things from happening, they're all, like the Justice Department, or not the Justice Department, the intelligence community has dirt on everyone on the Intelligence Oversight Committee. So it's to me, we're done. I like, when I look at where we're going to go from here, like, it's not pretty. Well, and I thought about this through history, though. We never had crypto. We never had that main pillar of the support mechanism when it came to everything that's happened, where people were able to take sovereignty back when it came to their money and to take that power away. So that's the only thing that gives me hope right now. But I've gotten pretty down the past few weeks.
The counterpoint there, Sean, about about people having an agency, and that's where cryptocurrency comes in, is the two downfalls of crypto is that it doesn't work without power. It doesn't work without the internet. And then, it does work without those that people have complete agency over whenever there is failure and collapse, bartering.
Yeah. And they do work without those. You can, but it's, we're not at the level of adoption where people are going to know, hey, you can use radio waves to transfer Bitcoin. Hey, you can use, we're not there yet. But you can.
Okay.
All right.
Just wanted to tell you guys about something real fast here because this might cheer you up, Mr. Satoshi Sean.
I'd appreciate it.
Let's start a DAO, connect it to a legal entity in Wyoming, and then raise capital to acquire a public company and take it private, decentralize it. Let's make a point of it. I think we should go after Robinhood. It'd be really appropriate because their entire IPO is basically designed to steal from the retail investors and give to their protected shares. Like, what if right after they're on the market, a reasonable buyout offer goes out from something entirely funded by a DAO, and that DAO pays a lawyer in Wyoming with an expert in public to private transactions to take it private, and we force it into a decentralized governance. And if it's evil, we part it out and destroy it. And if it's not, then we hand it over to the people who love it the most, as opposed to the people who want to wring all of the good out of it and then throw it away. Let's do that.
And how about the same?
There's nothing stopping that from happening today.
Lobbying government would be the other side. That you could very easily outmaneuver the current lobbyists to make effect with if you play the game, if the DAO is playing the game.
Right. DAO PACs can hire lobbying firms now that they're legal entities in Wyoming.
Well, you look at Wyoming. You bring up Wyoming, and Wyoming is it's perfect. Wyoming had passed 27 laws, that are crypto-friendly laws, in a month, and the reason they did that is because of one woman who was an intern in the Wyoming Senate when she was a kid. She graduated, left, went to the big city, worked Wall Street, worked for.
You're talking Caitlin Long, right?
Yeah, Caitlin Long. She worked for Morgan Stanley, or who did she work for?
Oh yeah.
Anyway, she worked for one of the big banks, one of the big trading places. Then she came back to Wyoming, having been successful, came back to her stomping grounds. Of course, the contacts she made, 15, 20 years before that, were still in government. So they're there. So she comes in and she just lobbied and talked to them, waited them out, and gave them the information for a month. And she got like 26 laws passed. And now Wyoming is one of the most friendly crypto states that there is.
It's the best place to start. She started the bank there. It's the best place to start to incorporate. Yeah.
Right.
She started the bank, the crypto-friendly bank there, that like most U.S. exchanges have accounts with. There, we
should almost ask them which corporate we should raid first with a DAO.
And I think, okay, first off, all of the people that are, and I don't say it looked at officials. I haven't said that for like 3 years now. Public servants, elected public servants, they're not really that dumb. Okay, they're dumb, but
they're also really smart.
But a lot of them are very smart. But they're given
running a broken system,
garbage in. They're given bad information. All the information that they're given about crypto is from lobbyists, is from their legacy, their masters, and that are going to try to push them against it. So when they say, "Oh, this is only used for, trading and selling people and drugs and all this evil," this is because they believe it.
Well, that's part of the
people that they trust are the ones giving them that information.
I got to throw in some insider background knowledge. So I spent like basically 4 years. Well, I guess when you count the whole thing, we did a project. Me and Austin both did a project, and Beth did a project with a company called Propylon to integrate basically a content management system and process management system for the entire Indiana state legislature. So we did, like, my role in it was to help Austin build the models and the interface elements to the business requirements of the voting systems in the House and the Senate, where they vote on bills, right? While I was troubleshooting that thing, because they literally, when it wasn't working as fast as they wanted, and it was still a new open source project in version 2 when it probably had no rights being in production at all. Sitting back there ready to take the punch from anybody who had a political agenda against the people who funded the project. You got to listen to all this back talk there. these people are really smart. The trick is they're not doing democracy in front of the cameras. They do that behind closed doors, and what you're seeing is a staged show based on what they think their constituents will want them to do based on the numbers they're gathering. This is a not at all cynical stage show. They really believe what they're doing is the right way to do good, because these systems that are managed by what people call a deep state are really just lifetime staffers running a procedure that they know how to do so that all these legislators can get through an agenda that they believe that they've promised to do. Like, it's sort of a calamity of, great intentions, terrible outcome writ large across every single one of these things. These are really good people who care a whole fuckload from the top to the bottom. I've never been more impressed with the ethics of people doing something more broken.
Mm-hmm.
Like they really, like if they could step back and see it, they'd realize what they're doing is fucked up. But, when you're holding the shovel, it's kind of hard to see that you're building a death trap.
Yep. Hey, we're going to cut here because it's 56. So is that all right? Does anybody have anything that's coming up in the next week that people should know about, that, you want to plug?
I was thinking stupid. So as a joke, I tried to mint 20,000 NFTs on Rarible the other day because an artist I like was asking for donations, and I was going to misunderstand him and donate 20,000 NFTs instead of $500 and whatever else. But he didn't respond to my request for an address, so those are just hanging out there. If anybody wants one of these 20,000, designed as a prank, what the fuck? The unlockable content is actually a link to the Twitter thread. So if you want, I literally have them marked for one die. I'm not taking any fucking commission or anything on it. So they're out on my Rarible account, which is also Design Heretic, if anybody wants to go be part of this joke.
Nice.
I will donate them to anybody who asks. Like, seriously, you want 20,000 stupid tokens? I'm your man.
Nice. Sean, you have anything coming up?
You should go and subscribe to my channel and all, but we're telling stupid stories. I got my kids a trip to Seattle to go visit their friends. Took them to the airport, and I've been in the airport a million times, but I think they changed the roads in Austin, to the Austin airport, and the GPS sent me this weird way. Maybe it was to not hit the tolls or something, but I was really confused when we got there, and I was rushing to leave, being dependent upon computers and AI and everything we were talking about. So I'm just typing in my address, 218, I live Blanket, BLAN, pops up, 218 Blanket, I see it, I tap it, I go. I drove for almost an hour in the wrong direction to my address, but in a different town. And at first I was like, man, this really is pretty. It's a cool way. Hill country is much nicer this way. It's like, oh, look, we run over 2 aquifers. This is beautiful. Like, wait a minute. So yeah.
That's awesome, man.
And then I was like, I should have just tried to drive home. Why am I dependent on this stupid phone? But yeah,
it's kind of like that. Kind of like that app that sends you to random places based on quantums, whatever that's called. You guys remember that thing?
Oh yeah, that's weird stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they found a body up here doing that.
Yeah, there should be send me on a random relaxing drive. Should be a button in every navigation app.
Yeah, that's actually that'd be brilliant.
I feel like Greg, me, and Sean being on a road trip together would be just fascinating. We got the guy minting shitpost tokens. We got me as the Dogecoin maximalist. Then we got Sean to get us lost along the way.
Yes.
The further we are from danger, the safer we are from harm.
Yeah.
Or
it's danger. It's the closer we are.
The closer we are to danger.
That's right.
The further we are from harm. Yeah.
So I mangled that quote.
That doesn't make sense, but you are very small. Okay.
Orrin, anything before you leave?
We're Orrin. We have some NFTs available on Mintbase on the Near Protocol. We're also going to be going to Berlin next week to play this NFT album for the first time. So if anybody's going to be in Berlin in Europe, we're going to be there for the month. So let us know. Thank you.
Are you live streaming it?
Hopefully, yes. On YouTube,
Cool.
Real Orrin.
I can't make it
Have a good
to
time.
I can't make it to Real Berlin to see Real Orrin in real person, but I will definitely watch the live stream.
That is excellent.
We'll
All
tell
right.
him that you said that. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Y'all take
Thanks,
care.
everybody.
Take care.
We'll be back next week. Like, comment, subscribe, everything else. Make sure you come back next week and vote up. We had really good questions this week. It was a very good set. So do it again. Let's get some good questions in for next week, and everything will be great. Thanks a bunch. Bye.
The first tap of a conductor's wand. The first rivet in a mile-high tower. The master link at the genesis of a never-ending chain. The moment a single empty canvas meets a singular master stroke. There is no one thing. Because now, there are many. Because soon, there will be more. Because one is ever the beginning. Like the first link in an infinite chain, or the first rivet in the tallest skyscraper. The master stroke is found in the masterpiece. What will you begin?